Hitting live on YouTube now.
All right. All
Okay.
right.
All right, so we are live. Hello, everybody. I am Amber Carvaly, creator of Mortician in the Kitchen. You can follow me on Instagram. That's where I am the most active. You can head over to my website, morticianinthekitchen.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. I'm getting that all started back up again, Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm known online as the Modern Mortician. You either love me or you hate me. And I have social media things too: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We're here doing great things. And we still have 11 days left on our Flower Power fundraiser for the
yes.
End Foundation. So those links are also in our little link trees and bios too. Get yourself some starters, some seeds.
Yeah. Buy some seeds, plant some gardens, support our funeral home, mortuary, conservation, burial park, extraordinary, everything. Yes. All right. So what do we want to talk about today? I know that I said that I want to talk about getting to do a dressing at Forest Lawn that was unbelievably just special. I feel so privileged and honored that my friends let me, that they were willing to trust that I was going to do that. What do you want to talk about?
It escapes me at this moment. You know what? No, actually, something I think that's important for people to know in pet death, since I have a pet funeral home, why aren't all vets offering all options? Just like funeral homes aren't offering all options. But I want to hear about your dressing experience first.
Okay.
Fire me up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So I had a friend from high school whose mother recently passed away or died. I know sometimes I know that I used to talk a lot about saying that, we should just say that people died, but I actually I take that back. I think I don't think I was wrong. I think it's a situational thing, but I really do generally like to say passed away. I feel like it just sounds nicer. So my friend's mother passed away. I've known this girl since high school. She was one of my best friends. She was super sweet. Her mother was really just extraordinarily kind. Our birthdays were 2 months apart. So we would have like a shared birthday because we were in band, so we had all the same friends, and it was like this. We would have everybody come over in October, and then we would watch scary movies. And scary movie in high school is like watching The Shining. You're just like, oh, The Shining. It's so scary. I think we watched The Shining and we watched Carrie. And then we would have a sleepover with all of our friends. And my friend's mom graciously let a bunch of high school students into her very nice house with many, many things that could be broken, and would cook for us. And she was really nice. I wonder, I wonder if she would remember me. I hope that she would feel good that I was there to take care of her, but she died. And I reached out to my friends and I was just really gentle. I was like, hey, first of all, I just want to say, and I know it's cliche, but I am so sorry. Your mother was amazing. I know that, I'm a funeral director. If you would like to dress your mom's body, if that sounds weird, I want you to just sit with it and think about it. And if that sounds like something you would be interested in, we can have another conversation about it. And I usually try to broach the topic that way. I'm never want to dress that, I'm just like, hey, if you would like to sit with this, I believe very much in it, but you can say no, and that's okay. I'm super at this point, I'm don't want to yuck anybody's yum. I don't think anybody should have to take care of their dead if they don't want to. If that's not your thing, that's not your thing. My mother is nope, that's not her gift. That's not what she gives to people. We all have these different strong points. And so I never want to make people feel bad. Oh, you've dishonored your family. It's just I'm here if you need me. So she was, oops, that's my husband coming inside. That's all right. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm telling a story. So so they were really into it. She was like, we would love to have you come down. They talked to the mortuary, explained how, what to say, and so for anybody that's watching, you just tell the mortuary you'd like to be there to dress your family members. The funeral directors, they're going to know, they're going to understand what you're asking for. And if you need help, I say this a lot on my Instagram, but you can direct message me. I'm like obsessively on my phone all the time. I'm sure you could message you also, Melissa. And yeah, our phones are always here. Oh God, mine is so gross.
Yellow?
It is yellow. Yeah. Yellow with it used to have a little pink boots sticker on the back, and pink boots is like a ladies who brew thing. But it got dirty, so I took it off. But yeah, people can message me anytime they want, and I'm always happy, and I mean this sincerely, I'm happy to talk to a funeral home and be your translator, because I don't want to jump ahead of the story, but I went to the service yesterday. I'm like, I don't know how time works anymore. And it's just really hard, like you and I, we speak funeral director, right? Like we know, when my friend was like, well, I don't know what time, she's like, I know what time the service starts at, but I don't know anything else. And it's like, okay, like I know if you're doing a chapel service, it's probably an hour, 10, 15 minutes to bring the casket to the graveyard or to the cemetery. So I'm like, okay, are we doing a graveside service? Are you doing a witness burial? It's like, I know all these things to ask. And I'm like, okay, it's cool. I know what time I need to be there. And there was like a little confusion when I was there that I picked up on between like the funeral director and her dad, my friend's dad, or the husband of the decedent. And I was really happy to be there, because I just thought like, man, it really is such a gift to be that middleman or woman or person. Because she was talking to me and she was like, oh, no, they don't want to see the casket go down. And I had already asked my friend, I was like, do you plan on staying to witness the burial? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, hold on, I don't think that's, and she didn't know. It was just because like everybody's like emotions are high. They're like talking to their family members they don't know. And so like I just like really gently put my like hand on my friend's dad's shoulder, and I was like, she wants to know, do you want to watch the casket get lowered? And he's like, oh yeah. And it's like that thing where it's like she's saying like, oh, I don't think they want to witness the interment. And it's like, they don't know what interment means. Like, like they don't know what disposition. Those are like our words, and we're all trying so hard to use the right ones. So anyways, I was just glad to be able, I feel like everybody needs that person, that like the middleman, where it's like, they would like, the funeral director would like to know if you want to watch the casket go down into the grave, where, the family members are not offended that someone would say it that bluntly, but nicely.
As somebody that has worked for a corporate funeral home that has a cemetery attached to it within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I know of colleagues that would purposely dissuade families from staying for the interment because that meant they could be done earlier.
Yeah.
Or they could be less proper about everything. They could be themselves, they could relax, obviously. Yeah. I saw that a lot. I'm sure at some point there are a lot of things that I did that other people weren't happy with, and inviting the family in to dress their loved one was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
As was inviting them to stay and offer to put in the first shovel of dirt. Like they did not like me. I did not last there for those reasons and many more.
Yeah, it's interesting because I almost wonder if oh shoot, I hear like a little bit of feedback. I kind of wonder if it is easier, like I don't know, I think for like the funeral director, like because both of my experiences with the girls at the cemetery, they were really nice, and they were like I kind of like wanted to like actually like write an email, just because like I know that Forest Lawn would be like super excited for me to be like, hey, I just wanted you to know that your staff did an excellent job, that they were really nice. They're both a girl who was helping us when we came in to dress, who was like super professional, like didn't like wasn't getting in the way. Like she offered to stay. She was like, oh, okay, so do you want me to stay and help? And without sounding like some sort of like smug, I was like, oh, hey.
You know who I am?
Yeah, no, I know. I'm sorry. I'm kind of a famous funeral director. I can't think of anything more cringy than me saying that and having her be like, no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, I just was like really nicely. I was like, oh, hey, like, thank you so much. I'm a funeral director, so I'm just going to be here to help them. And I forgot to bring makeup sponges. I was like, oh, I forgot makeup sponges. Can I ask you for some? And she brought like scissors to help in case we needed them, which I was like, thanked her for. I was like, thank you so much. And it was nice to be able to like tell my friends, like their mother was in a union. And I do think it's so good to have the funeral director, have the friend that knows what's up, that can like really gently be like, hey, so, your mom is in this. The care team here did this to help protect your mom. Cause like, I know when you don't have a personal relationship with a family, that's a really scary thing to talk about. Like, why is there plastic on,
Why is my mom wearing a clear plastic jumpsuit with elastic around the ends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like,
What's this floaty stuff?
Yeah. And the girl helping us was my cat just jumped on the table. You're not
Hi, Murray.
supposed to be up here. So she was really sweet. She had like a really good like tone. Like I really think that like, had I not been there, like I think that she would have been able to help a family. I don't know if, I don't know, Forest Lawn is like, don't promote that as a thing. But I mean, it's more money for them. It's like, that's, they charge for like a viewing and all that stuff, which I mean, I also kind of feel like at this point, I think is fair. I'm like, we had plenty of time to have a room to ourselves to just sit and be with her mom. And that is, it is a service. So anyway, so we dressed her mom together. We did her makeup. I kind of just gently guided them through like, okay, so like, this is how we put on the dress, like together, we're going to like, put your hand behind her knee, put your hand on the shoulder. We're going to roll her to me. We're going to pull this up. We're going to gently lay her down. And it was just such an extraordinarily beautiful experience. Like I feel like selfish getting to do them because like it brings me so much joy to like be there and do this for people and think about the fact that like, I hope it could make a difference. Doing her makeup was such a like cathartic sort of like experience. Like, like going through that like shock of like seeing a body. My cat is like very persistent right now. Seeing her and then like bringing her back to life and like really like creating that, like, I don't know if when you went to mortuary school, if they would talk about like the memory picture. Is that, yeah.
It's
which
push.
It is. But it was, I mean, there was like this sort of niceness in like thinking like, we used her mom's own makeup. And we talked about it and we talked about like what colors she would have worn or when she wore them. We talked about her eyeshadow, and it's neat to hold somebody's makeup and go like, oh, well, this was the eyeshadow she must have worn the most, because you're just like, you look at the world a different way. I'm seeing like all the places that like her mom, like the eyeshadow that she used the most. So it's like, okay, so this was clearly her base because this one has the least left in it. This one was what she used for her shade here because this one has a medium, and this must have been for her creases because that's what has the most left. And you think about like how as a funeral director, I think that we pick up on like all these nonverbal communication, nonverbal cues where it's like, I can learn an awful lot about you by looking at your stuff, and I can piece together who you were, especially when your children might be like, we just don't know. So I had a wonderful time, and it really reinvigorated the fact that I really hope that people get the chance to do this. Because it's always so scary. And it's so, I wish that I could be there for like everybody. Like, I wish that was just my job that I did all the time, is that like, I was just doing dressings with people, because it's just, nothing feels more natural to me. And, if you ever saw me hold a baby, you would immediately take your baby out of my arms. You would be like, please don't hold my baby or touch. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm gonna break it. And then like with a dead body, I'm just so at ease and it's so peaceful. And it just feels, it feels normal. I don't know. It feels like genetically like that I have lived many, many lives and that this is what I've always done. Is like I've just always taken care of dead people and apparently been a really terrible caretaker of small babies and children. I think I gave them to the other people in my social setting. So that's my story. I hope that people go back and see this and I don't know, reach out to me if you're in the Los Angeles area. I would be happy to work something out with you or find a ton of death doulas who can do exactly what I just described. I mean, I by no means, the whole point of this is that I do think that anybody can do it. I don't hold any special power or gift other than confidence and experience, and that's all you need is confidence. Really, experience just makes it easier. And if you have friends who are nurses, like nurses do everything that we do, like and more because they're alive and people are yelling. Is like a nurse turns the bodies the same way. Like they bathe people. Like anybody in healthcare probably could do this. So that's my story that I'm excited to talk about, my death story.
It reminded me of a situation that I've actually been placed in that's not out of the ordinary. Well, I guess it is out of the ordinary, but it shouldn't be. I had a friend 4 or 5 years ago, husband committed suicide. I was in Texas, they were in Florida. She flew me out there because she didn't know how to navigate the funeral home or anything. She didn't want him embalmed, but she knew she wanted to see his body one more time. So by the time we get around to the actual funeral home and I've already had phone conversations with the staff and I'm like, listen, this is what she wants. And they're like, well, he's not embalmed. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. When they come back from autopsy, you just need to do a little bit of minimal prep. We're not asking for full prep. We just want minimal prep. But he's had a full post, so cranial too. And I'm like, I know. Put a pillow here. She understands what she's going to see. And I'd already talked to the detective or whoever it was that had been there. And so it was an entry wound that went back this direction. So face was fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a little bit of bruising. But it wasn't anything horrific like people imagine when you think of somebody taking their life.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the gunshot wounds that you and I have probably seen, their faces are still viewable, right?
Yeah. I've had a few people who have died by suicide, and I've only had one where it was, and honestly, I think a more skilled, like a skilled embalmer who was just good at restorative arts would
like
be
Monica
able to.
Torres or something.
Yeah. They could fix that up. Fix that up. That sounded weird. But yeah, it was amazing. I remember seeing other cases before too, and I couldn't even tell what had happened because the embalmer who worked for a company that I worked with was so phenomenally talented. I was like, oh, that is really was a gift that he was able to give back to the family, is like being able to see this young woman that I'm thinking of in particular again.
The sad thing is that so many funeral homes do not have that level of staff expertise, and they are more likely to tell the family that they're not viewable. Put a sheet over them and give them time with the body, for F's sakes. And that's what we came close to doing with that person in Florida. Was I had to basically coach them into, this is what we need. Yes, he can still be in the medical bag. Yes, that's fine, but you're still going to stitch this up. You're going to cover him with a white sheet, this, that, and the other. And put him in the cremation container. So right after that, whoop, here we go. She can watch it through the window.
Yep.
But of course, I'm not explaining to them like that. And this is when I was much more calmer and I was able to handle conversations where I felt like I was going to coach someone. Now I don't handle things quite so well.
There's a lot going on in the world. There's a
lot. But yeah, it ended up being a very, very beautiful moment for her. She needed that closure. She needed to put her head on his cold chest, feeling it through the sheets. She needed that for her closure. if she hadn't had me out there, would we have gotten this far? No, because we actually had to have somebody standing at the door so she could have privacy because they
Oh
were
my
being looky-loos.
gosh.
It was the weirdest thing. But yeah.
Yeah, we had when I ran Undertaking LA, we did that a lot. I would offer and so when Melissa and I say minimal prep, we're not saying that as in like it's just minimal. It's how we internally discuss it. So there's minimal prep. And so minimal prep is just us telling whoever is helping or working on this specific decedent to just do some like bathing.
No embalming.
Yeah, no embalming. Please bathe, wash, do all of that. Do sutures. Yeah, we call it setting features, or I say setting features. But yeah, we would do that too with I'm going to say cases because that's what's natural for me to say. But cases just means a family that we're working with. But we had plenty of people who were just shrouded in a nice white sheet with the same thing. Just the face was visible. If there was trauma anywhere to the back of the head, then you can just place the sheet around them really nicely. I know one time Susanna had placed like a bunch of flowers around someone, and she looked beautiful. It looked like she was like just a little angel in a bed of flowers. There are ways to do things, and I think it's really important that exactly. It's just exactly just like that. Yeah. And then you can still witness the cremation because I think it's really important to tangibly or physically see the body. I've only had like one time where I didn't recommend for someone to see the body. And I think that says a lot. Like that one time in my entire experience, did I say like, I wouldn't recommend it. If you would like to, if you want, I can just take his hand out. And I think we might've done that. I think it was like covered up with sheets, but then like took the hands out so that you can, yes, thank you for Vanna whiting that or illustrating it. There's always a solution. There's always something. We had another woman where she had died by, gosh, just now that I think about it, I'm like, man, we actually had like a lot of like deaths by suicide, but her friend just wanted to see her tattoo on her ankle. Oh. And she was like fine, actually. Like the gentleman that worked with us, again, like he helped fix things up, even still with the minimal prep. But she was like, I just want to see her tattoo.
Like that's it's her that way.
I just want to know that it's her. Yeah. So it was, it was really cool. And it is unfortunate when people in the industry are, progressive enough to choose this as a career, but not progressive enough to, or not, maybe they're tired. Maybe they're having a bad day. I mean, that certainly affects the way that I think about things or talk about things. Like if I'm grumpy, I might suck. Like I might not be as nice of a human as I could possibly be. And I definitely can think of times where I wish I had been a better person. So my cat, by the way, has just gone completely limp. He is alive. No, he's good. He's just like, yes, I'm talking about you. Oh, he's like being super clingy right now. It's that like kids when the mom's on the phone, like all of a sudden I'm like, mom, what do you, but yeah, and if you're a funeral director and you're watching this and you're just like, oh, I mean, is that really a thing? Do people get upset? We embalmed 2 people in all of our cases because one was a ship out, which means we were sending them to Canada, and you don't need to embalm someone to send them, but her specific cause of death exacerbated decomposition. Like it was like a rapid decomposition. Like embalming was absolutely the best choice. But I'm always happy to talk to other funeral directors because like I dealt with unembalmed bodies all the time. And I dealt with unembalmed bodies that had been in refrigeration for 2 weeks. I saw all different kinds of causes of deaths, and I very rarely know what I'm talking about. I can tell you I know what I'm talking about here, like when it comes to unembalmed bodies. I couldn't tell you about embalming. That's not my specialty, but I can talk to you about unembalmed bodies. So get this little guy. Little goofus.
So if you can't afford to fly us to you, just
Yeah.
send us some coffee online.
I was gonna say, yeah. Hit the buy me a coffee button. My donation level is like $3. It's an absurdly fair price for some information, and I'm happy to talk to the mortuaries on your behalf too, and ask the questions that you might not know to ask. Because again, I think that that's a lot of where the miscommunication has a potential for happening. Is that like I know what questions to ask, and I know what the process is because this is the umpteenth time I've done it, and it's the first time for families, and it's understandable that you might be like overwhelmed. So, anyways, that's my story. What do you got?
Oh, that what I had is going to be a completely separate episode. I think I am still stuck on this topic that you've talked about. Just the inviting the families to have more hands-on is just so important, that people know that they can do this. And how many times, and it didn't matter if I was at a corporate funeral home or a family-owned funeral home in the last 2 years, I've seen things like that are not okay. And I've seen funeral homes and funeral directors mislead families for their betterment. But I've also seen some amazing and beautiful things not maybe come from those same people, but for people like us and other people, that are in this for the right reasons.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people know that it's the people, it's not the place, it's not the, like, because again, like, I think I told this story before. I got really frustrated one day with Caitlin because I was like, it's a problem when people call the funeral home and I answer the phone and they don't trust me. Like, what kind of content is being put out there where you have, sorry, my cat is getting into everything, right? Sir, get down. This is a problem if people don't trust your own employees. Like, that is like, we are now at like way, like, what's the word, like an inflammatory sort of thing. And I understand that to some degree it's not her fault that people are like going to the umpteenth degree of like, don't trust anybody, all funeral directors are bad, but it is an issue. And there was like, I like think it was an uncomfortable conversation for her. I don't know how she felt. I'm sure if I were in the same position, I would probably feel like a little bit like, well, I mean, it's not my fault that they don't like, I was gonna say like me, or like don't trust you. But so I want to steer clear of saying, sorry, my husband put a outside cat food bowl on top of the trash can and went outside, and now Dennis is like going like this, and he's like trying to get in it. Yeah, he's such a little hungry bear. But yeah, it was more of a like, hey, not blaming you, not saying that you're doing this on purpose, but every one of us, like we said before, you and me included, always need to be really mindful about what we say and how we say it. And we need to be able to like hopefully have permission from people that watch us or listen to us or digest our stuff to allow us to go back and be like, you know what? Damn it, Dennis. I misspoke, or I would like to go back and like readdress some things and talk about, like, you can go to the dentist, right? And you can have a really, really good dentist. I've had really great dentists, and I've had really bad dentists where I'm like, I feel like you're trying to sell me a broken down car. And I've been to Starbucks, and I've had baristas where I was just like, kind of made my day, sassy, I like you. And then other baristas where I'm like, I hope there's not spit in this coffee, you suck. So funeral directors are your friends. We're not bad people. Like, you have to be an incredibly special, kind-hearted person to willingly walk in somewhere and say, yes, I would like to deal with death on a daily basis, but there's always bad actors. There's always going to be people anywhere. And having these conversations, just kind of like, it's just.
Good job, Dennis.
Oh my God. Hold on. Okay, wait. Just tap dance or do something. This cat is like out of control. He almost knocked the candle over. Dennis, you have to stop.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Get ourselves a snack.
All right. I'm back.
So segueing off of that, I think, okay, I want to put out there, initially in my career, I was so adamant that corporate was bad.
Yeah.
Corporate is bad. Some of them still are. But I will say that what I learned was, when I was saying that over the course of my online career, is that I was hurting the funeral directors that were working at corporate, that were in there to make a difference, despite the experiences that I had personally had that made me feel that way. So I still work with that. But a funeral director should not tell a family that it absolutely can't be done without explanation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for the explanation because they think they're a person of authority and that they're doing what's best.
Yes.
And death is a scary topic, and that's why.
It is. Death is a scary topic. I think we're afraid of being sued. I think we're all always afraid to say the wrong thing. I think that one of my strongest points is that I'm not afraid to say the wrong thing, because I'm not afraid to immediately catch myself and apologize. Like, it's why I talk about it so much, because I just really think that, especially in a world of like cancel culture, I think we all need to be so much nicer to just everybody. Like, it's like we just all have our finger on like the trigger with the like, yeah, you said something wrong. And it's like, look, let's talk about how I can be better, how we can be better next time. And anyways, the point, what was the point? I got distracted. I was talking about,
it doesn't matter if they're corporate or not.
Yeah.
It's all about the person you're dealing with. And that
Right.
kind of leads me to something else I've been saying in interviews lately, actually for the last year. So if anybody comes back and says that this was them that said it, it was me. I think the future of the funeral industry is in the person, the funeral director. I think the future is the funeral director, not the firm.
Yeah.
Because as we integrate into our society and our communities, people are looking for us, a connection, not a facility. No, some people are still going to be drawn to what a facility can offer, but I think in these more intimate, caring situations, some of these, caring is not the right word. Seeing some of these certain situations, I think it is going to become more about the person that is elected to care for the decedent over the business.
Yeah, I agree. And I do remember what I was like, oh yeah, I think that funeral directors can feel nervous or scared about saying the wrong thing. And I was going to say, like, in the explanation, because it's like, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, so we're in this like really emotional situation right now, and now I need to explain why I feel like maybe you shouldn't see someone, or I think sometimes I wonder if people at the mortuary feel that they don't have the authority. And I think that there's a really good, more so just like a business and management discussion on empowering employees. And that's a top-down thing. So then, you can work in a corporation where it's like, well, the top-down, the trickle-down thing here is that they are trying to make money. SCI, but they're public. They're beholden to people that want to make more money off stocks, and that's a conflict of interest. I got talked to when I worked at Forest Lawn about being slow, and I had only been there 3 months, and it was like, yeah, I've been here 3 months. I'm probably going to be slow, but it's like, that was part of my review. They're like, so we need to talk about you speeding things up. And if you want to guess what happened when I was told to speed things up, I made a mistake. Not a fatal mistake, but we're not allowed to casket people until we've confirmed that they've paid, because you cannot reuse a casket. That is a very, very good, let me reiterate, a very good practice. Do not put anyone in a casket until they have paid. Because my boss had told me that I needed to speed things up, and she came into the embalming room, pointed to the clock, and she said, when that hand hits the 1 o'clock mark, I want Mr. We'll call him Stevens. I genuinely don't remember his name. I want Mr. Stevens to be dressed and casketed. So guess what happened? All I focused on was not getting in trouble and dressing and casketing Mr. Stevens. So then I'm done. My boss walks out and then she goes, "Oh, by the way, did you see if he paid?" And I had not. And guess what? The family had not paid. So immediately my heart sunk. Turns out it was his casket that he had purchased. So it was fine. It was an outside casket. But it was like every single day there for me really did feel like I was being gaslit because I was like, did she know this? Like, did she? And there wasn't any on her end where she was like, hey, you know what I understand is maybe telling you to dress and casket this person in 45 minutes might have made you feel a little stressed out as the apprentice. Nothing like that. It was just like this really severe, like, don't do it again. So empowering your employees and being understanding is all good. And the point is that sometimes you have a shitty manager. And I don't think that she was a bad person. I know that she's not with the company anymore. So wherever you are, I hope that things are better for you. Perhaps she also didn't, it was bad. It was every day was a nightmare. Every day was a goddamn nightmare there for me. God bless those two girls that helped me at, I mean, I was genuinely shocked. I was like, wow, these girls were so sweet and professional and lovely. Just great job, ladies. If you care to know who I was, whatever. I'm just kidding. You don't have to know me. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassing, but I'm very proud of how wonderful they were. And then, so we have a question. Can I read it?
Please do.
Okay. So the question is, in your opinion, how or why is some embalming done so badly? My dad died of a heart attack and he looked so peaceful at home. At the funeral home, he had visible glue coming out of his eyes. It was horrific. I have thoughts, but do you want to go first?
As I want to hear you go first.
Well, I can tell you as an apprentice embalmer, I can say that it depends on who has embalmed your loved one. I was not a very good embalmer. I think that had I had 10 years under my belt, I would be a very good embalmer. I think I would be fantastic at it. I think that in the first 3 months, though, I really just did my best. There is also something, I'm not sure if like his skin turned a different color, but there's something known as, and forgive me if I'm misquoting it, formaldehyde gray. And it's a chemical reaction that happens. And I remember seeing that firsthand when I had a gentleman who looked really sweet and peaceful. And then I embalmed him and he turned completely gray and green and it was horrific. And then I had to take someone whose skin tone was completely fine, by the way, turn them gray, and then put a bunch of makeup over him. So he looked like he was getting ready to, I don't know, do a round of like, yeah, he was going to do like a Broadway like version of Hamilton or something. He had so much makeup on, and like the feeling that I felt so horrific, and I had no way of knowing that. And I, to this day, don't know if it was because of his cause of death, because we didn't have access to death certificates. It was just universal precautions. You just treated everybody as if they had like a bloodborne pathogen that you could get on you, which was terrifying when I was suturing someone's scalp and stabbed myself in the finger with a needle because they wouldn't tell me if he had anything. I was like, this is, oh, holy shit. And so the glue coming out of his eyes is someone not knowing what they were doing. As a woman who has worn lots of false eyelashes, I can say did not have a problem gluing eyes shut because I am very familiar with putting glue on eyes. And I was really good at suturing mouths. And I was really good at, I think I was so good at setting features. Like my family members that I like worked on, they always looked so, I know it sounds so weird and morbid, but they just looked so at peace. And it brought me so much joy to be like, I did that. Like I knew where their muscles were and I was able to like make them like look like they're smiling and at ease. And anyways, that's those are my thoughts. Couple things. I think either experience, and it sounds like it's experience if it's glue coming out of the eyes, because that's like a mechanical failure of the operator as opposed to like a chemical failure.
I almost question if it was glue, just based on the information we were given. If it was white and crusty, that would more or less be the Aran Alpha or the super glue that's used to close eyelids. And you would also see the lashes either pulled out from trying to get the dried glue off or stuck together.
True.
You mentioned a cardiac event for him, and that makes me feel like there could have been some edema issues. So possibly maybe his eyes were swollen and liquid maybe kept coming out the sides.
Yeah.
And that typically happens when a body is embalmed. We're putting a lot of pressure on the internal vascular system. We are putting a lot of pressure on it. You're going to break, but there's stuff we don't see as embalmers because it's under the skin tissue. Not everybody is open up like an autopsy, and even then there's things we don't see. We're not surgeons.
Yeah.
We're just working basically topically. One thing I've said in my career is I have had more embalmed bodies purge than ever have I had unembalmed bodies purge. And that's something that people in the industry try to argue with me about. And I'm like, what are you doing to these bodies? What are you doing? Like, are you spinning them around? Are you pushing them over? Are you doing this to their stomach? Like, I don't get it. The pressure that we're putting on the internal organs and everything, even if you aspirate the cavities when you take a long hollow needle, not this sucker behind me here. Where is that guy? It's in I've got my sample stuff in the casket for when I go out and do shows and educational things at the library. But anyway, trocar, long hollow needle.
Yeah.
Attached to an aspirator that sucks. And so it's stabbed 2 inches over and 2 inches up, inserted. And it's driven into every organ to remove the fluid and then preserve with something they place back in through the same channels that they've created. But the vascular system, we're not touching that with the trocar. So that's why I feel like we're getting a lot of the seepage that happens here and with these cardiac events that have happened because their cardiovascular system is already in dire straits as it is because they had a cardiac event. That's what they died from. And
yeah.
It could be that. That's based on my experience. I've seen cases like that this could apply to.
Yeah. If there was edema, because my friends, and again, when it's like having a friend there who can explain things and can just be like, hey, like this is all normal. I always say like I call it like weeping. Like, and her eyes were weeping a little bit when we were putting mascara on her. And it's just like super, super gentle, like, hey, like this is okay. This is normal. This is related to, this is just related to like what's happened. The funeral home didn't do anything wrong. I'm saying, Heidi said, thanks for the info. I did not want the info, but his wife did. She outranked me. Interesting.
What's the last part?
She said, I did not want the info, but his wife did. She outranked me, unfortunately. Yeah. That was something when I started working with unembalmed bodies is to double back to what you said was the embalming. She meant, that his wife wanted the embalming, not the,
I was like, sorry, Heidi.
Yeah. She said, oops, not the info, the embalming. I figured that that's probably what you meant. That's why I was like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. I thought bodies just purged all the time. And I would have friends be like, oh, like, how is the purge? And I don't think, and obviously, like, I could be wrong, but I don't think I had a single body purge in my entire time at Undertaking LA. Because none of them were embalmed. And it's like, yeah, it makes and I started like putting 2 and 2 together. It was like, interesting. I wonder if this is because they haven't, it's just like you said, like we're not seeing everything and like we're pushing all of this fluid. So for those of you that don't know what embalming is, and for those of you that do, and then are going to watch this and start screaming at the screen and being like, wrong, you're opening this up, pushing the fluid through, and we are building pressure. So the fluid isn't like going in and then directly out. It's going in and it's building and it's building and it's building because we want to like push that fluid through all the arterial systems. We want to get it. Yep, we want to get it through. So we have to build that pressure. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is when you build that pressure, it's going to start moving other things around. And then we're releasing that pressure. So you're like, oh, this swelling, and then of that. And it's just going to move stuff. That's just normal. That's I wanted to be like, that's science, man. It's just normal. That's what happens. We're pushing on some muscles. We're pushing on things inside. And when we don't embalm, I'm really not moving the body that much. I mean, I'm moving to dress them, but like I've gotten really extraordinarily good at doing a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and then like that's it. So it's super minimal. Like I'm not really like that strong. So I'm not like lifting the body and like moving them around that much. So yeah, I didn't have but I definitely remember a woman purging in her casket that I was getting ready to send out, and that was horrifying because it was like, so purge, by the way, everybody, is like when a baby spits up or if you're like me and you've had too much to drink and you throw up, it's kind of like that. And I do want to clarify, this is soda water. I just like drinking out of a wine glass because it makes me feel fancy. It's how I trick. Yeah, it's how I trick myself into drinking water. I'm like, it's not water. It's water in a beautiful glass.
Ate off camera today. Are you guys happy?
I'm very proud of you, Brad Pitt.
Thank you.
Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. So yeah. And again, like, hey, if the purging's fine and embalming is fine, it's just good to know that if you choose this can happen. And if you're an embalmer and you're just like, I don't believe you, I don't know what to say. Believe me, they just don't purge if you don't embalm them.
No. Unless they have eaten recently, like say you've got a hospice person and the family has been force feeding them baby food or something like that, and they're not listening to the nurses saying, nothing, they don't need anything, they're not, and then you've got that goofing out, then yes.
Yeah.
But in the natural dying process of things. Now, I want to go back to, somebody's going to pick us apart because purge is not necessarily what's coming out of the eyes too. I forget what the terminology is when it's the moisture that's just weeping.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would remember we would have to take Weberil sometimes with some cases, not even obese people that had heart situations, just anybody. We would put Weberil, that cotton, underneath the eye line until the next morning because they would continually just weep it out. The embalming fluid, they just weep it out. And so we'd do that until the last minute. I would remember going in and just checking the casket one more time with the Weberil, ready to just tap those eyes. Please don't smudge her eye makeup. Oh my God. Do you know how long I worked on that liner? That wingtip.
Yeah. Yeah, it is unfortunate. But like I do think too, if there's like a lot of water in the body, I'm inclined with my very limited embalming experience that I go back and forth because I think like water is the thing that's going to exacerbate breakdown. And so if we have, like in this case, we had a service that was going to be, we had like a 3 or 4 day service and like family flying in from out of the country. So I'm usually like in those situations, like I'm definitely like pro embalming. And if you're Catholic, like I'm just like, I respect your religious beliefs. Like if you believe embalming is part of it, like it's just not the thing that I think that we should be focusing on. Like it's not the most important thing. I think focusing on like a living wage for funeral directors, like an actual living wage. I know that the bosses think that they're paying their employees enough. You're not paying them enough. And if you notice that service is slacking off, it's probably because your employees are exhausted. They are constantly terrified of getting sued or getting in trouble. They are taking a massive amount of emotional energy and responsibility on with probably a very limited training. Like all we had to do was go to mortuary school, which is like fine, but that is not a psychology degree. That is not grief. That's not learning how to set healthy boundaries, learning how to interact with people who are in grief. There is just like, they're like, here you go, kid. Like, and then you're like, don't I need some tools? And they're like, I don't know. Here's a hammer. And you're just like, but these are all screws. And they're like, you'll figure it out. Don't worry. Like metaphor being like, they do not give you the tools that you need to handle such an incredibly emotional situation. So is it any surprise that a bunch of people eventually go, you know what, I make like $15 an hour and I don't want to deal with this. So I'm just going to convince the family not to do it because it would be easier. And they might not have the skill set to do what they need to do properly, which does then mean that the family is going to get super, super pissed, complain, possibly get you in trouble. I had people get me in trouble all the time when I waited tables because of like salad dressing or too much salt. Like these people, I had the worst Yelp review ever. I invite you all to take a look at it. You can go to Yelp and you can go to Water Grill because that's where I worked the entire time I waited. I worked at Undertaking LA. I worked at Water Grill. And I have what I think is maybe one of the worst Yelp reviews I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was because I didn't give them bread. I had disgraced them. They had come out for an elegant evening. By the way, they ordered mac and cheese, and there's nothing wrong with mac and cheese, but don't order only mac and cheese and tell me that's an elegant evening. We need to have a conversation as someone who has kitchen in their title. But they wouldn't look me in the eye. They said I had disrespected them, that they had never been disrespected this much in their entire life. And like, they wanted me fired. So everybody listening, imagine that there is a human being that has so much hatred in their heart that when they don't get bread, they want you to get fired from your shitty waitressing job. And then think of that person in a funeral home where their mom died and they don't have a good relationship with their dad, and the bossy aunt's coming in and their brothers are really, it's like, honestly, for $15 an hour, I probably also would be like, you know what? Fucking nope. And that's where bosses need to come in and provide better training, provide more money. You can't be so terrified to lose your job because you don't make enough to get through the next week or 2 weeks. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, like I hate to say it, but like it's kind of like I like the older I get and the more experience I've had, the less the less like inflammatory I feel, where I'm just like, you need to pay people more, and you need to not have stockholders involved. You need to not have people who don't work in the industry making like the entire point is that like a business has to keep making more money. If the business doesn't keep making more money, your shareholders don't make more money. And who are the people that suffer? It's always us. It's always the funeral directors. It's the guys out there doing the gardening, the landscaping, digging the graves. One of the guys that I worked with had been there for 27 years and had gotten like 2 raises. And when he told me how much he made, I could have died. It was like, Jesus, this is it. This is just like this is all that it's just ridiculous. And the people that started Forest Lawn, obviously he's dead, Robert Eden or whatever. That guy was so wealthy. He's like, he influenced like the essentially like the construction of California. That's how like monumentally of an important person he was. And now there's a company where like all those people deserve more money. They all like, if you're listening to me and you dislike me for any reason, just let me know. I think that you deserve more money, even if you think that I suck. I want you. I think that if you made more money, you would hate me less. So that's sorry. I think I don't know if I just totally went off on a tangent. But
it was perfect. Everything fits in perfectly. We had a good episode today. We're almost at an hour.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I'm always like, all right, should we wrap it up? But then you'll say something and I'm like, hold on, I have a 10-minute rant on this. So yeah, do we want to repeat where people can find us, how they can give us money?
Yeah, I think the best thing for me right now is to send everybody to my link tree. So it's the linktr.ee /the_modern_mortician. That's harder to say than it looks.
Yes, it is.
But the links to the podcast for the Death Positive podcast and our Patreon is there.
That was me. That was a pop. Yeah. It should be coming. If someone wants to start editing our podcasts, please just, God, I can't do it. Every time I have to edit something and I like bounce the tracks, they like don't bounce properly. And then there's like a hole in it. And so what happens is when you export it to try to master it.
Is that what those links were?
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been that. Yeah. And it's every time I have to clip anything out, if there's like a chair moving or I have to clip that out of the track, etch it back, like put it stitch it back together. And then I have to make sure that the tracks don't move. People that edit, God bless you. It's a really difficult job. It looks easy and it's not. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but we're poor and we don't. It's just us. So
We have episodes recorded.
We have them recorded, yes.
Shout out to our producer, Heidi Campbell. Thank you for being the producer on the Death Positive podcast.
Yeah, I think Heidi is like our number one everything. So thank you so much. She really is. Thank you, Heidi. If you would like us to give you a shout out, we're pretty cheap. You can just give us like $3, $5 a month. We want you to reassure you that the money, everything that I make just goes back to like, I just made, that's right. I made postcards. I made, you haven't even seen them yet, have you?
No. And I could show the sticker, but yeah, I'll show the sticker.
Okay. So that's our postcard, the Death Positive podcast. And it has an actual postcard back. So I can write and mail. I have to buy a bunch of stamps now too. We only have like 8 people on our Patreon, so like honestly, it shouldn't take me that long to mail 8 out.
There's the sticker.
Yay! I love it.
So we're gathering things up to send to our patrons.
Yeah, we yes, I have 50 postcards because I'll send some to you. So once again, I'm Amber Carvaly. I am the Mortician in the Kitchen. I talk about food and death, but I'm mostly just like, I'm a mortician, but I usually am also in my kitchen. By the way, this is going to look like a phallic symbol. It's not. I have to stop using dragon fruit powder because it looks like a flesh color, but this is pasta dough. I'm going to make fettuccine Alfredo later tonight. So this has been sitting. And then I have pizza dough in the oven right now. My pizza dough rising. So dough rising right now. So that's what I've been up to today, is doing a whole bunch of bread work because it's very therapeutic. And oh gosh, I just love it so much. So. And it's good if you're grieving and you're sad. That was my first episode of my, or first issue of my magazine. It was called Let's Play Dough. And it's just about grief therapy and how like Play-Doh is a good grief therapy for children. And so as an adult, this is, it's just not Play-Doh. It's just real dough. But the principles are the same. So
you can eat it afterwards.
You get to eat this dough. I mean, I would eat Play-Doh because I was salty. Can I get Kermit's? Heidi would like Kermit's signature.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
No problem. We should send out paw prints of Dennis and Kermit.
Oh yeah, Dennis and Kermit. Oh wait, Sandy has turtles.
Can do turtles? Can you juice like safe paw prints with them?
With like berries or something, mash up some raspberries and stick their paws in it, or they like strawberries and stuff.
Oh yeah, we should look into that. Okay.
Sandy's not here with us today. I think she fell asleep. She had a great time at the conference, learning a bunch of stuff, and she was gung ho to get on, and then we lost her. So our topic switched.
That's right. We're talking about. We talked today about doing dressings, and we will talk more about natural organic reduction. Did I say it right? Finally, is that what it is?
No.
We will talk about that on our next episode with Sandy, who probably really deserves a nap. My God, all of us do. Every time people are like, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I don't know. But I can tell you I'm super tired all the time. I'm like usually like painfully exhausted. And then I get like little bursts of energy. And then, I cook. I think this helps. So.
On we go. Fighting the good fight.
Yeah. All right. So should we sign off? We'll end it. Yeah. Thank you to our supporters. Hetty, as in Hetty Lamar. Thank you again for joining us. She was back. Also we have 4-letter word cards. They specifically. She said, "Hey, Melissa." So I meant to pass that. Yeah.
Thank you for supporting us and for watching. I really, really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. We'll see you again very soon.